Thanks so much for joining me for this episode of the But First She Failed podcast. We are almost at the end of July. We're also a few weeks past the midway point of this year. I know in the beginning of the year, it's so exciting. Everyone's writing down their goals and dreaming big things and doing New Year's resolutions and all the things. But usually around this time of the year, things are kind of quiet on that front, right? People aren't really looking at their goals or not really talking about it. But now is actually the perfect time to go back and look at those goals that you set out and you wrote down in the beginning of the year. Take a look at them and see if they are still aligned with what you believe, what you want, what your priorities are for the rest of the year, right? I've been there before where in the beginning of the year, you're really excited about all your goals. And then the months go by, nothing is worked on. And then you get to New Year's Eve and you aren't quite as happy with what you accomplished in the year, right? I don't want that for you, right? So that's why today's episode is really important. We're going to go back and look at the goals that we set in the beginning of the year, and we are going to see how to realign, reassess, reevaluate so that you can not be fixated on the things that you haven't accomplished yet, because that's not the goal of this episode. The goal is really to look back at the things you've already accomplished and celebrate the wins, even if they're small, and take inventory, not to beat yourself up, not to be sad about the things you haven't done, but take inventory about the things you haven't gotten to yet and maybe take some things off your plate, put them on your goal list for next year so you can really focus on the things you want to prioritize so you can feel amazing on New Year's Eve and know that you crushed 2025 the way that you wanted to, right? Now let's get into it. This is the mid-year reset, how to realign and make the rest of 2025 the most productive 6 months of your life. Number one, look back at your goals and reevaluate. Are these still your goals? Go back. And what I want you to do before you do anything is go back and physically open up that notebook, open up that piece of paper, look for wherever you wrote down, if it was post-its, wherever you wrote down your goals, go back and physically look at it. Why? Because there's so much power in just simply reading the goals again. I'm going to be honest with you. There were even goals. I went back and I did this. I physically made myself go when I was writing this, go up and get up and go to my room, pick up my notebook and go through and look at the goals that I had written down. And I had actually forgotten some of the goals that were very vivid and very real for me in January. And some of the things I completely forgot, some of the things I crushed, some of the things I have already accomplished. That's the process, right? So I want you to physically go back and look at your goals of what you wrote down, go open that notebook. And if you haven't done that yet, if you haven't written down your goals for 2025, that's okay. I encourage you to go back to episode 118, which is supercharge your 2025 so you can have the most productive year yet. That's the episode we did in the beginning of the year, I really laid out how to go about setting up your goals for the year and how to figure out like what's aligned with you and how to make these big audacious goals for yourself, right? So I encourage you to go back to listen to that episode if you haven't done that yet. We still have 6 months. We still have a lot of time. So please go back and do that. There, like I said, there's a lot of power in simply looking at your goals, right? Now I know, like I mentioned, I found things that I had worked on, some things that I had progressed on. But once you review your goals, once you look at it, now it's time to reevaluate, right? Maybe you wanted to lose weight in this year. Maybe you wrote down, I want to lose X amount of pounds in this year, but now you're pregnant. So that is not going to be a priority anymore. And that's okay. We shift and we go along. We have goals and visions for our life. And every single year, different things come up. Maybe you thought things were going to really pop up in this area of your life, right? In this business or this area, and they haven't. But maybe things are growing and flourishing in another area, something else you prayed about, something else you wanted in the year, right? So look back and reevaluate. Maybe you also, sometimes certain things are important in one moment and they're no longer a priority, and that's okay. We change, we evolve throughout the year. For example, one thing for me is this season, I'm working out at 6 p.m. 3 times a week. I'm doing spin class and I'm committed to it. It's part of my overall, it's envision in line with my overall vision of the year of losing some weight, right? It's my health goals. And I've committed to working out. It's great for my mental health and I'm really enjoying that. But naturally, there's more light out in the evening. So in the summer, it's a little bit easier to work out at 6 p.m. It's not as tough as it is during winter, right? So what does this mean? This means I'm energized, super energized at night. I'm getting a lot of work done at nighttime, but it's also, making me stay up a little bit longer, right? Because I have all this energy. So maybe waking up super, super early isn't as important. It was not one of my goals for the year, but maybe this is not the season to focus on that goal. And that's okay. As long as I'm getting all the other things done. And I think you know what, it's okay that I kind of move this down on the priority list of waking up early, and maybe, I stay up a little bit later, get more things done or accomplish the things that I wanted to in the morning. You're also going with the flow of your body, right? Like what's natural for you, right? So in this season, I took kind of inventory, and that's what I came up with. Like, it's okay that I'm waking up a little bit later. It's okay that I am working out at nighttime instead of morning. I kind of readjusted myself, but it's working really well because why I'm still hitting those goals, right? So this is a time to take inventory. Ask yourself what worked in the last 6 months. Like, what worked really well for you in the last 6 months towards your goals? Look at, like, what did you crush? What haven't you touched, right? What drained you? Maybe you are like, I focus on this thing. I picked up this hobby and this drained me, or I was working this kind of way and I feel like I'm burning out on my side project. What drained you? What gave you energy? Ask yourself these questions. What gave you energy? What motivated you? What motivated you in this season? Also, what felt fake or forced, right? So this can happen. Sometimes you're really interested in a subject for a moment of time, and then you're like, oh, I don't really care about it as much. And it takes a little bit more effort. It feels a little bit more forced, and that's okay. We go kind of, we assess, we reevaluate, and that's okay. Some things are going to be moved to next year's list, and some things are going to be moved up in priority, right? Which new habits made you feel your best? Maybe you, like I mentioned, I started doing spin class, and I'm loving it in the season. It's fun for me. It's like dance class, but while doing bicycling, and I love to ride a bike. So it's two things that I love doing, dancing and riding a bike. And it's really worked for me. So it's a new habit that I've developed, and it's been something that's really fun for me. It's given me a lot of energy. So what new habits made you feel your best in this season? Kind of take inventory there. And then you can kind of move things around and see, okay, what needs to be moved to 2026? What needs to be moved to 2025? Like, what needs to become a priority? And so that is a really good way to reevaluate what your goals are. Number two is dig deeper and figure out your why. Why do you have those goals? For example, you can say to you, maybe you said you wanted to start a side business, a side hustle, right? And you need to ask yourself the why, right? Why did you do this? Why did you set up all these goals? For example, if said you wanted to start a side business or side hustle, and then you were like, oh, I want to do this because I eventually want to leave my job. Okay, great. But why do you want to go deeper with it, right? Why do you want to leave this job? Oh, because you can't stand your boss. You have the worst manager in the world. Okay, but why? What is behind that? We'll go a little bit deeper. Yes, that can be all true, but go a little bit deeper with it. Okay, because you don't want to have a 9 to 5 anymore. You just decided you don't want to have a 9 to 5. You don't want to be driving into work every single day. Okay, that's great. But go a little bit deeper because you want to be able to pick up your kids from school. Okay, now we're getting somewhere, right? Why? And then continue to ask yourself why. Why? Because you want to be a more present parent. You want to be more involved in their life. Why? And then you continue to ask yourself why. Because you want to have time and financial freedom to spend the time with your loved ones, right? And you go after your goals, or, be really there for your kids as they're growing up. Continue to do this. Why? Funny, the pun intended. Why do you do this? Because as you go deeper, any goal, anything that you're going to set out to do for the year, it's going to be tough, right? It's going to be tough to work on that side hustle when you would rather be watching Netflix or just doing whatever, or just sleeping or scrolling on your phone. But when you really examine the why, and you have a deep understanding of your why, it gives you the motivation, it gives you the perseverance, it pushes you to continue going after your goals. Another example of this could be like, maybe you decided that you wanted to lose weight. Well, why do you want to lose weight? Oh, you want to look good? Okay. But go deeper because you want to feel good. That's good. But why do you want to feel good? And, why do you want to feel good? Because you want to be healthy for many years to come. Okay. That's good because you want to be healthy for many years to come to see your children grow up, and you want to be healthy, watch them grow. That's great. So take all your goals and examine the why behind them. Go really deep and examine, why do I want this goal? Why do I want to pick up this hobby? Why do I want to travel? Why do I want to do whatever you wrote on your list? Why do I want to invest into a second property or buy my first home? Why do you want to do these things? What is the purpose behind it all? If you can't find a good enough why or good enough purpose, then when the going gets tough, you're not going to do the thing. You're not going to have the energy. You're not going to miraculously be like, oh, I'm going to focus on this. No, you're going to go to comfort. Comfort is always there to fight you, right? And comfort is, they say that comfort is the enemy of greatness, right? So you cannot grow and develop and become the person that you're trying to be if you're always going to be comfortable, right? you need to really write down your whys by each goal. That's what I recommend. I did that with my notebook. I wrote down and I asked myself these why questions, and I said, okay, why do I care about these things? Why did I put these goals here? And then I put the reason, the deeper why behind each one of those goals, so that I can remember, like, when I don't feel like going to spin class, okay, what did I identify as a why behind this, right? What's the really deep why? Why do I want to have this business? Why did I start this podcast? Why am I working towards these things that are hard and take up a lot of time and a lot of effort and a lot of energy? And maybe you don't see the output right away. And when you don't see the output right away, it can be very discouraging. But if you have a clear and deep why, it's really going to sustain you and keep you going. Number 3 is remove the stumbling blocks, right? Like I said this in the goal setting episode, and I feel like I always talk about this book because I just love it. But Atomic Habits, I read that book months ago, maybe 6, 7 months ago, and I finally finished it. I was reading it for the longest time and I never finished it. But I absolutely love that book. One of my favorite quotes is that you do not rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your systems. And I 100% agree with that. And I've talked about that in previous episodes. So make it, one of the things that they talk about in the book is make it easy, remove the stumbling blocks, right? If you want to go to the gym 3 times a week, but you get lazy and you don't want to go because it's too much effort. By the time you get home, then you don't want to put on your workout clothes and you're just exhausted, and then you end up not going to the gym. Then take your gym clothes with you to work. Take your gym clothes with you to work and work out right afterwards. Like before you go home, go to the gym and work out. Something that I used to do when I used to work in the corporate space was, one of the buildings that I worked in, we had a gym in the complex, and during lunchtime I was like, I'm not in the season. It was a crazy season for me, and I knew I wasn't going to go to the gym if it was after hours or on the weekends. There was just a lot going on in our family's life. And so what I would do is during my lunch break, I would bring my food from home, and then I would quickly go to the gym, at least do some like 30 minutes of cardio or something and weights, and then I would come back to my desk, go to the kitchen, heat up my food, and eat at my desk really quick those last 20 minutes of my lunch break. And so that's how I got to the gym in that season. That's what I recommend you doing. Make it easy for yourself. Incorporate it into something that you're already going to do, time that you already have, whether that's during your lunch break at work, whether that is on your way home, or whatever that looks like. Make it easy for yourself. Remove the stumbling blocks, right? Take your clothes with you. Something that I was struggling with that I mentioned earlier in another episode was, before I wanted to do this podcast, when I want to come back to it, when I wanted to relaunch earlier this year, one of the struggles that I had was that my youngest is still home full time with me. So I am a stay-at-home mom in this season. That's my primary role in the season. And so it is very hard to work around a baby schedule. As anyone, if you've ever been full time with a baby, or whether if you're not full time, if you are a parent, you or an aunt or an uncle, or you have close proximity to a baby, you know that a baby is difficult. They have all sorts of schedules, all sorts of needs. No 2 days are alike. Times vary, things varies. They have all sorts of needs. And so recording was just difficult. It was unrealistic for me to say, oh, I'm just going to record while she's taking a nap. And because my baby would take naps at different times, it would be difficult. There were a lot of stumbling blocks there when it came to recording. So what did we do? We went into our budget and we got a babysitter. We have a babysitter that comes, and she comes, well, now she's coming 2 days a week, but before she was coming 1 day a week just for me to record, because that's the day that I needed to be super focused. And I could not have a baby on my hip. I mean, I know some podcasters are totally for having a baby on their hip or kids in the background and noise, and great. That's great for them. That's just not the model that I subscribe to, or what I grew up doing, or what I feel is appropriate for this specific show. And so because of that, I got a nanny 1 day a week to come and help me so that I could just record and get the things done 1 day a week for a few hours. And so I removed the stumbling block there. Another thing that I struggled with was groceries, right? Groceries were really difficult for me for a while there. We couldn't figure out when to include it, because on Sundays we would go to church and then we would be exhausted. It just felt like a lot, especially with 2 kids. It felt like way too much to go to church and do all of that stuff. And then we were exhausted. And then, getting ready for the week, it was just too much. So then I was like, okay, well, Mondays became my thing. So then I started incorporating it into my Monday morning routine, where every Monday mornings I go to Trader Joe's. Shout out to Trader Joe's. I love Trader Joe's. We're a Trader Joe's family here. But it was just, it was a routine that we incorporated into our system. And now I go every single Monday morning, I go to the grocery store. And that is how it's become something that's manageable, something that's easy. I've kind of incorporated that with laundry too, in the gaps around my schedule. So what are the things that are stumbling blocks? Another thing that I struggle with is I get distracted easily, and if my workspace is dirty, it's like overwhelms me. So I incorporated the habit of taking 15 minutes before I start working to clean up, to tidy up a little bit, just so that I can focus enough to get work done. Another thing is that, especially when, like I said, when it comes to working, I get so distracted so easily, especially because I work from home, guys. There's a million things that I could be getting done around the house. And so I recently started taking Magic Mind, which is this mental performance shot. It's been a game changer for me. Magic Mind is this mental performance shot. I actually have one right here. Like if you can see it right there, it's been great for me. It's like, it's an addition to your daily routine. So it's not a replacement for coffee, but it's an addition. It gets you focused, mentally clear, motivated, productive while reducing stress, which is amazing for me, right? It has the mushroom nootropics and adaptogens, plus over 100% of your daily vitamin C and D per bottle. Guys, this is super efficient. They actually reached out to me and, they sent me a few shots so that I could try it out and see if it worked for me first before they sponsored this video. And guys, I used to drink coffee 3 times a day. A few months ago, I was at the point where I was drinking coffee in the morning. By lunchtime, I needed another one. By the afternoon, I needed another one. And I was at the point where I was like, I needed 3 forms of caffeine just to make it to dinner time with my kids. And I was already crashing by bedtime, by their bedtime routine. I was exhausted. And the worst part about it was that I got super jittery, like super jittery and all the things, yet still groggy. So it felt like my body was on this borrowed energy where I could run a marathon, but I could not focus enough to get the important work that I needed to get done because my mind was just so groggy. But Magic Mind gives you both the energy and the focus to get the things that you need to get done. Man, it's helped me so much. It keeps me calm with none of the jitters or the crashes that I would get in the afternoon with my coffee, because it has this time release caffeine. This has L-theanine, which is all the craze in the season. Why? Because it improves attention, executive function, memory, and this also has nano encapsulation that keeps it from slowing down and releasing all at once, right? So it kind of has this this slow and steady energy, if you will. And they have been gracious enough to offer us a unique discount code so you can get 60% off. Yes, 60% off your first subscription purchase if you just use code Paola 60. So that's PAOLA 60 at checkout. And you can claim that at magicmind.com/Paola MM. So MM for Magic Mike, right? And I'm going to put that in the show notes as well. But guys, I also love this stuff because it's 100% safe. All the ingredients are third-party tested. They're sourced from the best suppliers. It kind of reminds me of, I don't know if you've ever watched this movie, but as I was trying this, I was like, oh my gosh, this reminds me of that movie with Bradley Cooper, Limitless, where he takes that pill and all of a sudden he can do all the things. He can do anything because his mind is so sharp. But this is not a pill. It's just like the safe, very organic ingredients, and it tastes like a wellness shot. So if you like wellness shots, this is right up your alley. So I recommend you check it out and, give this offer a try. If this is something that interests you, go ahead and look at it. There's a reason 30,000 high performers swear by it, and the rest of us are just catching up. So anyways, if you have a problem with focus and you struggle with focusing on your task, I really highly recommend Magic Mind. I think it's a great solution for that. It's essential you examine what your stumbling blocks are, make sure that you remove them. So if that's one of them, you can remove it by adding in something that will help you focus, right? Whatever the situation is, whatever your stumbling blocks are, remove them. Make it easy for yourself. Make it easy so that you can do the habits and you start habit stacking the way that you want to, so you can crush and accomplish the goal more likely and accomplish that. Number 4 is plan your week. How do you ensure success? Systemize your life every single week. What do I mean by this? Systemize your life? That's just the term that me and my husband use because we took a course by, shout out to Chelsea Joe Moore. She was on the podcast many moons ago. I'll actually link that episode below. But she is this badass when it comes to all things systems and creating systems for work from home moms and just work from home business owners and all the things. And she's just really good about maximizing your time. How do you create systems that support you? And anyways, I interviewed her. I had her on the podcast a while back, and I'll link that episode below as well. But my husband do this thing where we plan out our week, right? Systemize your life is what she calls it. But one of the main things in that is systemize your life is planning out your week. We do this every week, my husband and I. At least we try to. This is really important. Throughout the year, we do this where we sit every single Monday or Sunday afternoon or Monday morning, we would sit and we would really go over a week. And we would assess what is going on this week, what's important, what do we need to focus on, what can possibly be stumbling blocks that are really going to throw us off this week. How can we be better prepared for this week? So What do? We look at the week, we look at our shared Google Calendar, and we look at what are the commitments, what are the things that we have. We look at our shared, like I said, our shared Google Calendar, it's our shared family Google Calendar, and we go and look at what are the commitments that we have. For example, I might say, hey, just so you know, I have a doctor's appointment on Thursday at 4 p.m. So can you take the kids to the extracurricular? Or he might say, hey, I have a meeting Tuesday morning, so I need you to drop off the kids at school that day. We do this for social commitments as well. I might say, hey, I have a happy hour with some of my friends on Wednesday. With these friends, I'm going to see them, blah, blah, blah. Or he might say, hey, I have a men's small group gathering, whatever that looks like. Or even things that affect our home and neither one of us. For example, I could say, hey, we have the cleaning lady. We have a cleaning lady that comes, like she comes once a month, and we can say, we have a cleaning lady that's coming Thursday from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. So I might say, hey, that day you can't work from home. You need to go to the office, etc. This is important because this is anything that could cause a hiccup in your schedule and your family schedule. And a lot of times we realize we were wasting a lot of time and energy with things that could have been prevented had we just had better communication between us about what the week looked like. Also, you see the week ahead, you see what's changing, you see what things are going to look like, you see where you need to make adjustments, right? This is a really productive thing to do because you kind of see like, hey, what's going on this week? What do I need to focus on this week? I'm really heavy with social engagements. That means I need to really, really, really focus on accomplishing my workouts in the morning, or I really need to be focused on getting this done for the podcast or this done for work, or all the things. So it's just a way to kind of plan ahead and have a game plan and be more prepared, because things don't always go perfect. Most of the time they won't. Your week won't go the way that it looks in the beginning of the week, but that's okay. At least you kind of are able to better pivot and be stronger and do 80% of the week amazing instead of the full, like, if you don't plan your week. What we've had weeks where it's like the whole week we're just living by the seat of our chairs, right? We're just trying to figure out day by day. And then that is chaos. It brings a lot of anxiety to me. It's not healthy, right? And what does this do? This also helps you be better aligned with your goals, right? So for example, time blocking. You can do number 5 is actually time blocking. And you can do this once you've systemized or planned the week ahead, right? What do I mean by time blocking? It's actually become one of my favorite things to do. Once you have the time that you have each week organized and you have like different blocks of times for certain things, you can now start adding in your goals, right? For after hours, maybe before work. For example, I always refer back to a season where this was a game changer for me. When I was launching this podcast, shout out to Side Hustle Pro and to Podcast Moguls course, Nikayla. She is the host of Side Hustle Pro, but I took her course when I was launching this podcast back when I was working on launching this podcast back in 2020. And I just love her because one of the things she said was she made us, as part of the modules, go into our notebooks and like into our calendars and physically block off the time that we would be committing to working on this course and to launching our podcast, right? And for me, that helped me because what did I do? I blocked off 3 days a week, and I was like, okay, every Monday, I think it was Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, I'm going to work on my podcast from the time that my son goes to sleep until 10 o'clock at night. And I did that. And what did that do? That was so helpful for me, right? Because, I did that for 4 months leading up to my podcast launch. And, that's how I managed to launch my podcast as a top 50 Apple podcast and entrepreneurship right from the get. As a first time mom, having an 8-month-old son, I was able to, work up leading to launch because of the time that I blocked off. And I was committed to that. I had put it on my calendar. I was super committed to it. It gave me really like handles for like, what am I getting done? How do I manage my time in this season? For example, if let's just say if there was a Wednesday night where I had an event, someone's birthday party or something that was really important that I needed to go to, I would say, okay, these are 3 hours that I'm not working on my podcast on Wednesday night. And I usually work on it. So now I would look at my week and I'd be like, when else am I going to pull 3 hours from? So maybe it would be on a Saturday morning. Then I'd be like, okay, I didn't do it on Wednesday night, but I'm going to work on the podcast for 3 hours Saturday morning. Or I didn't get it done on Wednesday night because I had this commitment, but Friday night, I'm going to commit to doing this, right? So it was really helpful. I highly recommend time blocking so you can focus on what needs to get done on your big goals for the remainder of the year. So maybe you aren't launching a podcast or a YouTube channel, but you're writing a book, or maybe you're starting a side hustle, or maybe you are, starting to mentor or starting to, do, more in ministry, whatever that looks like, or maybe you're paying off debt. I recommend that if you are doing something like that, go into your your bank accounts on Wednesday night and go look at your accounts and start paying off some small debts and going over your budget. Or maybe you're meal prepping because you decided that you want to lose weight and you have health goals, and Monday you can dedicate Wednesday nights to like really learning about food and nutrition, or maybe like looking for recipes for whatever that's going to look like for your meal prepping for the week. There's a lot of ways you can use time blocking to incorporate that into your goals so that you can really have a very, very productive the rest of your year, right? And number 6 is task stacking. I almost said that wrong. This one is really cool. I think, this is really fun for me. This is something that I was actually been doing for a while, and I've recently realized I was doing it. And what is this? This is thinking of activities that you either do only with your brain or with your body. Stack up the opposite activity on top of it. For example, I try to listen to an audiobook or a podcast while I'm doing laundry, right? While I'm folding clothes, while I'm putting it away. I don't just waste that time because I'm doing something physically, but my mind is not preoccupied at that moment. In that moment, I'm usually doing it after hours. I'm usually doing it when I have a little bit of quiet time. So my mind is really free. And it's something that it's like, to be honest with you, if I'm just folding laundry, I get very frustrated because I feel like I'm wasting my time. I know I'm not wasting my time, but I feel like it, right? So for me, it's really helpful that I'm learning something. I'm doing something that I feel like I'm really being productive. So I'm learning a book from a book that I want to be reading, or listening to a podcast that I really wanted to listen to while I'm doing the thing, right? I also listen to podcasts, while I'm doing, or books while I'm putting away dirty dishes, or unloading the dishwasher or unloading the dishwasher. That is really helpful to me. Again, it's one of those things that it's like whatever is mind numbing, whatever like tedious thing that's physical that you are doing, I would suggest incorporate task stacking. So add something that you can use your mind. You can be also learning at the same time. So you're being really productive in that time, right? Another thing that I do is some people love to listen to music while they're on, the drive, and that's okay. You can do that. But for me, what I like to do is for example, when I'm driving, I like to call people. That's my time that I usually have some privacy. Doesn't always happen, but when I do, I like to make a phone call, call a friend, call a family, a cousin, something. And I really use that time to make phone calls or to listen to a book or podcast. Again, you can see a trend here. I really love Audible and I really love podcasts and I love learning. So that's something that I tend to do. But another example is I used to do this when I would go to the gym. I would go do weights, and I would go do cardio on the elliptical or whatever. And then I would also do some weights so then I could listen to, something. But in the season, like I mentioned, I'm doing spin class, and they have their own music. So that is not a time that I can do that anymore, right? Because they have their own music, they have their own things. So I really try to be really mindful of like, when do I have a moment where I am doing something physical, but maybe it doesn't really require me to use my mental like focus for it. And then I try to incorporate something that I can be like learning mentally while I'm also doing this thing. And you can do it with the opposite, right? You can do something that is, if you are doing something that's mentally heavy, you can also do something that's kind of physical while you do it, right? Sometimes people take phone calls while they're walking, so they can be walking and taking a phone call, a business phone call. I'm not at that level yet, but I know people that do it. There's people that do all sorts of physical things while they're doing something that is engaging them mentally, that they already are doing that's engaging them mentally. So you can do it both ways. But that's a hack to make it very productive. If you only have a limited amount of time every single week, then I encourage you to be really, really resourceful with those hours. If you only have 6 hours a week or 5 hours a week to get the things that you need to get done, then maybe you don't really have time to listen to a podcast necessarily because you got to get work done in those little hours. So listen to the podcast, listen to the thing while you're doing something else. So I encourage you to do that. Well, there you have it. Those are 6 ways to reset and realign so you can crush your goals and finish 2025 strong. I hope to see you next time. Again, remember to look at that offer from Magic Mind. I'm going to list it in the show notes, but you get 60% off Magic Mind once you subscribe to them. You get 60% off your first order and all by using Paola 60 and you can just go to magicmind.com/PaolaMM. I'm going to link all of this stuff below. But yeah, take a look at that because I think that's very helpful. And I hope these steps help you realign your year. Let me know your thoughts. Let me know if you find something else that's really helpful that helps you realign your thoughts or realign your goals for the year, or maybe take one of these things, implement it. Let me know how it went. I'd love to hear from you. Well, there you have it. Like I said, those are 6 steps for realigning, reassessing your goals so you can have an incredible end of your year of 2025. Hope to see you next time.